Marking. That was terrible. Gentlemen, I'm about to tell you about UAPs, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. It is wild. Can't wait to tell you about it.
Okay, well, this is Timely, the channel where we talk about random fun topics from the past, present, and future.
Yeah, this channel's kind of taken off, so subscribe.
There are things presently afoot that are creepy and weird and mysterious, as has been recently covered on the CBS News show 60 Minutes, which I know you all watch.
Big fan.
I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched 60 Minutes.
It's actually not bad, man. CBS does some really good news shows.
Okay.
At any rate, they did a piece this last weekend all about UAPs, which is the new term for UFOs, which is Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon.
No.
Do they have to rename it because people were like, just UFOs? Okay.
I'll tell you why they're renaming it.
It's because it's not always an object. Was that it, right? Like it's
You're close, and I'll get into some of that in just a second. Before we do, let's look at some of this footage that they did a lot of interviews. They're releasing a lot of footage, and I'm going to show you some of this footage right now so you can react a little bit to it, okay? So this was taken in 2019 off of a Navy ship. I believe it was in the Pacific Ocean.
So this is some green footage, because it's night vision, and there's like a weird triangle blinking and moving around the sky.
So in that clip in particular, they were pyramid shape somethings.
Huh.
In the night vision, they just look like triangles, but they were pyramid shape.
Oh, okay. So they're three-dimensional.
This next one, I believe was around 2015 or 14.
I've seen this one.
Yeah,
Looks like some sort of thermal imaging.
So yeah, this one was really weird because it actually did not show, they couldn't see it, but it was showing up on radar and with infrared.
What? So you couldn't see it with your naked eye, so then they pulled up this
But it's
heat
something,
vision.
there is an object there of some sort. This was in Puerto Rico. It was an object that going, I think like 13,000 miles an hour, something like that, went past the airport, dove into the water, split in two, and then came back out.
What? Hang on. It dove into the water, split
Just
in
watch
two.
it. You'll see it go into the water, and it comes back out of the water in two pieces.
That's got to be like an asteroid or something, right?
I don't know. This one was like hovering, and it ends up going into the water and coming back out.
There's a lot of thermal ones, I'm seeing. So yeah, just a lot of weird objects just kind of moving around erratically.
These are photos taken off the coast of Virginia Beach around 2019.
So, these just look like Mylar balloons.
They do, but they are registering on radar as objects that are moving.
And this is like, there's a lot of triangles.
There are a lot of triangles. This one is really interesting because it was going at a speed that they cannot describe. And they were really excited when they locked onto it, because it's really hard to lock on to some of these objects.
Is there anything here that says what speed it's going?
Based on the interviews, some of these objects are going anywhere between like 5 and 13,000 miles an hour.
What is this camera that we're looking at? Because I know
that's actually a really good question, and that is part of why I'm bringing this up. We've all seen unidentified flying object videos, right?
Yeah, and we hear UFO, and our first knee-jerk reaction is to think aliens, but it literally just means something flying in the sky that we don't know what it is.
And where do we normally see that footage is taken by like a family doing a barbecue in a backyard, or maybe a news crew catches something that they can't explain. What is unique about all of these clips that I just showed you is that they have been leaked and released and confirmed to come from the United States military. They've acknowledged before that they see stuff, but this is the first time that we're getting like leaked footage from the military. Now, here's where the 60 Minutes piece, and it has now gone to other news organizations, gets really fascinating because they are now doing interviews with different task forces in the United States government, and also the actual Navy pilots and people within the intelligence community who are now finally speaking out about a lot of the investigations they've been doing on these things. And that's what makes this really unique, is that within the United States government, we're finding out that there are actually designated groups who have been investigating this. So, for example, the Department of Defense had something called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. These were individuals who were doing nothing but investigating footage that the United States military had been capturing.
So anytime this stuff came in, and that, again, that title sounds a little bit alienish, but it just means advanced. So it could be like foreign governments things. And I've heard that like the scariest explanation for all of this isn't aliens. It's like, no, the reason we see these things all the time is because the simplest explanation is these are just drones and balloons and spy things that other governments have been sending over here.
Yeah.
And we're not identifying them because it's unbelievably easy just to send small things through the air to spy on other people.
I will say that in all of these interviews that they're doing it with people who are part of these government programs. They're doing it with, like I said, the actual pilots, people of that nature. These are credible individuals who, in the past, they're saying, people in the military have seen this stuff for a long time, but if you're on a solo flight doing some sort of training mission and you see something, you're not going to come back and tell anybody because you are immediately opening yourself up to ridicule.
Right.
So people just keep it quiet.
Right.
Now they're able to corroborate because in a lot of cases, there's multiple planes that are seeing these things. It then leads into the discussion, what is this? And that's what I really appreciated about the 60 Minutes interview with all these individuals. They were all very consistently saying, we are not saying this is aliens. What we are saying, we are saying is they are things that defy our technology. They are things that defy physics as we know it, and we don't know what they are. Now, they do speak a little bit to, could they be, and then we can get into this discussion, what are your guys' thoughts based on stuff like this that you've seen? There are some who are saying, yeah, you could say it could be the Russians or the Chinese or whatever, but the reality is it is a very slim likelihood that it is, that based on how advanced some of this technology seems to be, that it is some sort of advanced technology from another country. There's other things too that people are saying, that could all of these things just be camera problems?
Right. Yeah, because there's all kinds of things, like when we've seen things before, like from the past, that were some of the most convincing UFO or Bigfoot or Loch Ness, whatever these things that we're trying to find, and you find it like, oh, there's a very reasonable explanation for what that is. Like the reason Loch Ness always looks like there's a monster like serpenting around in the water is because of the way that water moves.
Sure.
Like it causes this optical illusion that looks just like that.
And that lends itself to all these conspiracies that we've always known. People jump to the conclusion that it's aliens, alien-like extraterrestrial. And the reason why I think they do that, and there was actually somebody that was part of the 60 Minute interview, her name was Sarah Scholes, she's an author, that was saying we quickly jump to conclusions because even with this military and government footage, they're black and white, night vision, grainy, out of focus. So we can't see exactly what it is. So that fogginess leaves it so open to interpretation.
Right.
People are going to default to Star Wars and Star Trek. Most of the people who are investigating this, though they're saying, I guess it could be extraterrestrial life. One guy that made one of the best points as to why he doesn't believe it is extraterrestrial. This is a guy named Seth Shostak, who is actually the lead astronomer for SETI. Do you know what SETI is?
Search for extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Sorry, yeah.
The reason why he's not convinced that all of these things are extraterrestrial is because he points out, do you know how many satellites we have just outside of our atmosphere that are not picking up on the same types of things?
Right.
So is it possible that these are things that are exclusive to our terrestrial realm?
Right. That would be my first assumption. Is just like we've got so many satellites in the air looking at everything all over the place. The odds of something extraterrestrial like sneaking through, but then again, you're basing it all off of our understanding of modern physics, and we know we're going to come up with we're going to find new things that are just going to change our universe forever and what's possible. That's always happening. So I guess it's totally possible that it is, but I think it's a lot more likely that it's just, again, to that same respect, that like we're going to discover something else. It's just something we just don't know about, like the way that these thermal cameras respond to certain type of input. I don't know, but also thinking about like all the stuff that happened out in Roswell and all that stuff, like when they were testing the F-117 and the B-2, it was nothing but a wing. You would have looked at a picture of that and been like, that's all these UFOs we keep seeing. There's no, like, it's just a wing that flies and it doesn't show up on radar. Nothing about it makes any sense from what we understand. But then as soon as you see it and they explain it, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, other theories that are out there, it just gets really fascinating at a certain point because people are now maybe a little bit more open to like, is this a plane of existence thing? Even indications of, so every civilization going back as far as we can trace had some concept of a spiritual world or a supernatural world. So could this, instead of it being something part of the natural world, is it part of the supernatural realm in some sense, which is something to think about, even though there are a lot of people that will try to use science to explain away the supernatural. There are obviously still a lot of things that we don't understand that could potentially be on a different plane of some sort. No pun intended.
Nice. I think it's space junk.
Space junk.
You think it's just falling from space?
Yeah. You know how much space junk is out there?
There's a lot of space junk.
Old satellites that are not accounted for. Maybe there's Russian satellites that they don't even like want to claim anymore because they're like maybe former spy satellites. Whatever. Stuff burning up through the atmosphere. There's actually a new startup company that I just saw aiming to put up a space junk grabber. It's like a satellite that like has this big arm on it and it just like grabs all the space junk that's just floating around up there. It's just trash.
There's so much trash up there.
Here's what I would ask you to consider then though. One of the guys at the interview, he was actually the director of this Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program for the Department of Defense. He was a former CIA operative. So this is a guy who knows how to like investigate things, right? He said, I'm only telling you what I can, even though he's not part of the program anymore. He's like, I'm telling you stuff that I know has been either leaked or is about to be declassified. He's like, there are things that are still classified I can't tell you. And he says they are significantly more compelling than these grainy videos. The one thing that he alluded to was that there's actually eyewitness reports of pilots who are within 50 feet of something that they can describe.
Wow.
That's not just a grainy video.
They're like, what is this thing that I'm next to?
Causing their planes to not obey physics the correct way. Here's the plot twist that makes this really interesting. What we have to thank for all this information starting to leak is the coronavirus.
Oh. Really?
Let me explain. The reason this stuff is starting to leak is because the December COVID-19 relief bill that was passed had buried in it a mandate from the Senate Intelligence Committee for the Office of Naval Intelligence and the FBI to produce a report on these unidentified aerial phenomenon within 100 days of the bill passing, which is June of 2021.
That's why we're getting all this stuff
So
out now.
stuff is starting to leak out now because the Senate is about to receive and make public a report about the full findings of what the government has been investigating.
Why was that all in the corona?
Somebody had somebody who wanted him to squeeze it in there, man.
I mean, we know this about the United States government. This is why it took so long for a lot of the even stimulus packages to pass, because there's so many other things baked into any bill that goes through Congress.
They got to make somebody who donated to them happy, so they get something put into the bill. Like,
There was some alien somewhere who was like holding up a congressman at gunpoint saying, you
alien
better put
lobbyists.
this. Yeah. The alien lobby got him.
big alien.
That whole aspect of it is really fascinating, and it's going to be interesting to see in June what the government is able to tell us. But the thing that's really fascinating now is like, look, we're beyond the phase of feeling silly for acknowledging that there's something out there. What we need to be careful about, and this is what some of these interviews in the 60 Minutes piece said, is a lot of what Danny was saying. Let's not jump to conclusions that this is alien life, but there are things that we are interacting with that we don't understand.
And there is a scientific theory that if there is an alien life that's intelligent enough to visit us, that we are so primitive compared to them that they would if they are that advanced, they'd have some sort of understanding of morality and would say, we cannot interfere with this lesser life form's trajectory. Like, they would see us as having the right to our own life and our own destiny without interference from another planet.
So
basically anti-colonization.
Let's answer the question more personally, even though we don't want to become guilty of going down the same path and just jump to the conclusion that these are all UFOs as we've understood them as alien spaceships.
So let's not jump to conclusions. Let's take a little step to a conclusion.
Let's just dip our toe into conclusions.
Let's
sashay to a conclusion.
I was going to say sachet.
Let's sashay to conclusion.
I'm not kidding you. I was about to say sachet.
You don't really get to say sashay.
It's just the perfect time.
This is the perfect time.
You guys are friends. What are your thoughts? Is there alien life out there?
I think there's some form of alien life out there. Intelligent alien life. There totally could be. I don't think you can say no. It just doesn't matter to me. So I just don't care that much. It'd be interesting. I would be really interested to find out if there was, if somebody could tell me for sure, but there's nothing I'm going to get from that.
This is interesting coming from the guy who's convinced that the world is going to end in some dystopian state.
Because that is going to happen.
Well, how do you know the aliens don't cause it? Have you seen Independence Day?
True. I just think we have so many things looking out into space, and we have we know so often what's coming here. Granted, again, like I said before, there could be some technology we don't even know about that's keep making them able to get here without us seeing them.
And there are times that asteroids fly by and they're like, whoa, we didn't see that coming.
It's really rare. Usually they're...
No, I think it's actually that we think we are looking at a lot of the sky, but there's so much of it that we're not looking at.
There are more close calls than I think we're able to anticipate.
Right. So I don't know. I don't think there's an intelligent life that's visiting us. I think the most likely scenario is it's another country just spying. And then nature, just some weird things.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. I think we'll probably find out in the next several years. Kind of like the Bigfoot footage that came out, in the 60s or whatever. It's at the time, maybe people were shocked. Maybe there's a Sasquatch, maybe there's this whole species we don't know about. But over time, it's that's not really plausible. It's just, there's an easy explanation for it, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I think there will probably be some explanation for all this.
There's a vast amount out there that we don't know about. And this is one of the things that the guy from SETI was saying. From a probability standpoint, there's trillions of galaxies out there with billions of planets, many of which could be like Earth. Probability says there's some sort of life out there, intelligent or not intelligent.
Yeah, whether or not they could actually reach us, maybe there's laws of physics we don't understand. But as we know it right now, we'd have to go 300 million years, the speed of light, just to get to the next galaxy. Which is okay, so no one's coming here.
No one's coming.
We're on a freaking island.
Yeah.
In all probability, this is not an alien. Is it something unexplainable? Yes. But my thinking is like soon we'll be able to have an explanation for this.
Sure.
I don't think it doesn't look like a camera malfunction to me. Like I feel like we'd be able to spot something like that like relatively like, oh, that's a spot on the lens or something on the sensor. It's definitely moving, but I feel like it's got to be either something from space falling out of the sky, or it's some other country's unidentified aircraft,
or it's United States stuff that they're keeping secret. Right?
Exactly.
Like we can create holograms artificially. We can make Biggie show up at a concert with Tupac. Like stuff like that could happen naturally too, I would assume. We just wouldn't know how it would happen, what would happen.
Sure.
I mean, the cool thing about this is that we have all this footage. That means this is happening enough that like people are capturing it. And it's happening so much there's entire government organizations devoted to analyzing this stuff. This is where we're at now with our technology. As our cameras, as all of our tools get further and further along, it's going to become more and more clear what this stuff is.
Sure. This is maybe a conspiracy theory, but it's another possibility. We've talked about like deep fakes and how easy it is now for people to fake footage, right? Like so back with the Bigfoot footage in the 60s, like it's clearly some dude in a suit. That was a terrible fake. But now they could fake this fairly easily. It's possible that the government is like releasing this to try to throw somebody off in some way. Like maybe
try to get somebody else's information.
Now, if you're going to say that, then you're getting into, so all these people that they're interviewing are plants or they're actors.
Or they're duped too. Maybe like the top secret government is releasing this.
Right. The only thing with that is that they're not just basing what they're seeing on what they're seeing on a camera. These are things that they're actually physically seeing, but they're also capturing on radar and infrared and cameras and some of that other stuff.
True.
Remember, we did, as a government, give a bunch of people LSD and do things with them. So it wouldn't be outside the realm of, what we actually do to people to believe that these people are just all in on it.
Or maybe they manipulated their dreams to make them think that they saw this.
Yeah, maybe they hypnotized the people into seeing this stuff. Who knows?
As far as the whole alien life thing out there, though, like I have a little bit of a unique perspective too, because I'll come at it a little bit more from a faith standpoint, because faith is so important to, I know, all of us. And as I look through that lens, it's tricky because there's a balance there, right? To say for a Christian who looks at the Bible, we believe that the Bible tells us a ton about the creative order of the universe, and yet it's not a science book. So there's an age-old debate, or I should say a more recent modern debate that's always going on between what a Bible says versus what science says. Unfortunately, they've been pitted against each other, which I think has been really unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way. I think that it is well within the realm of my thinking based on how I understand the scriptures that if the entire universe was created just for what's taking place on Earth, I'm open to that. Now, I get also that scientifically speaking, there's a probability, if we're just looking from a probability standpoint, that there could be more life out there because there's only, we know a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what's actually out there. Right. But I also think that within that probability is a probability that nothing is out there except for us. That is part of the probability, right? But at the same time, you don't want to fall into, when you're going to come from a faith standpoint, into the trap that the Catholic Church fell into at the time of Galileo.
Like
who had some pretty empirical evidence about the Earth being round, and because it didn't jive, it wasn't even that it didn't jive with the Bible, it's that it didn't jive with their power structure, they closed their ears and la-la-la'd and ridiculed him. So you don't want to do that either.
And that's where I get into, like, it doesn't matter to me that much because, like, yeah, as a Christian, if somebody came in tomorrow and was like, there's no aliens everywhere, how does that affect your faith? You'd be like, it doesn't. Like, we found aliens on Alpha Centauri 4. How does it affect your faith? It doesn't.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter to me because, like, I don't think the Bible shows me everything about the universe.
Right.
Because there's no way my tiny little man brain could understand that.
Right. So we then concern ourselves with what is taking place on the globe that we're living on and live the way that we feel we need to live according to that. The thing that's really fascinating about this, though, and that's really going to be interesting as all this comes out, is that it's not just 5 or 6 things. In fact, what I'm really looking forward to in June when this comes out is how they speak to the interview they had with one of these pilots who patrolled off the coast of Virginia Beach. Said every day for 2 years he saw UAPs over the Atlantic Ocean in restricted airspace.
Whoa.
Every day for 2 years. So this isn't just a couple things here or there. There's a mountain of data that they have that they're trying to get their arms around. So it's going to be really fascinating.
Stay tuned for an update.
That's right.
Wow.
We might need to circle back on this one.
I have another update. A little while ago, we did a clip on this channel. Jeff talked about stories from space programs.
I'm doing a lot of space stuff lately, evidently.
That's true. So we talked about like funny and interesting stories from space programs, from the space race, and even like SpaceX. I have another one. This just came up. It's sort of like an addition to your topic.
Nice. So we're not going to include this on the audio podcast. So the only way people are going to get this is right here on
That's right.
YouTube, right?
This is exclusive to YouTube
Nice.
channel.
Okay.
Yep. The way that this person wrote this on Reddit is just the perfect way to say this. Judith Love Cohen. This is a woman who was a NASA engineer who helped create the abort guidance system, which rescued the Apollo 13 astronauts, went to work on the day she was in labor. She took a printout of a problem she was working on to the hospital. She called her boss and said she finished the problem and then gave birth to Jack Black.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
Jack Black's mother was a key person in the space program?
Jack Black's mom saved the Apollo 13 astronauts.
What?
Wow.
Yeah!
Oh my goodness.
I saw this and I was like, is that real? Is that entirely real? I looked it up. Entirely real. 100% real.
And then her son went on to make School of Rock and be in Tenacious D.
Yes.
She was a genius, and then just like while in labor, took her genius paperwork with her, solved a problem, saved some lives, and by the way, just delivered like one of the most famous people in the world.
That's a good day.
It's a good day.
It is unbelievable.
That's a tough day. Be sure to listen to the audio-only full episode of our podcast. Link is below.
If you like what we're doing here, hit that like button.